was.
Hi Sean,
Hiya.
and you just said your team meeting as well, so I'm guessing has gone well. 3 wins out of 5 in all competitions. Must be a pretty good week so far.
Yeah, I think we've been building on early season performances, but changing that to get results. The details I spoke about, both ends of the pitch are improving. The demand has been obvious, I think, from the players to make sure that we do improve on them metrics and take our chances and be solid the other end. So a good mix so far, or certainly recently, bringing early season form but without results into form plus results.
In the 1-1 against Brighton, you had only 20% of the ball. Do you think possession football and all this talk around that, is it overrated?
I don't think it's overrated. I think there's certain games require certain ways of playing. We hope to do better with the ball, I must make that clear, particularly on counter-attacking when we got in so many good positions. But on the other side, the defensive side was very good, very pleasing. The will, demand, the energy of the side and the commitment to basically stop them from creating many chances. They get a lucky break. Sometimes that happens. They're a very good side. But no, I think we've seen a balance this season of the way that we can perform. We've seen games where we've dominated with the ball and the metrics with the ball. I spoke about that more early in the season, XG, etc. But it's pleasing for me as the manager to see different ways of affecting games, because over a season in the Premier League, I think I'm pretty experienced in it. You know, unless you're the superpowers, particularly, you know, historically over the last number of years, Man City, I think you have to flex and change. You know, that's what I've learned about the Premier League, and I think we're showing signs that we can do that and the players can do that.
VAR, it seems a conversation that you can have every single week, but I know there were some issues for you last week. Are we any nearer or further away, do you think, from a bit of clarity across the
Well, I think it's a tough call. They're altering it, they're changing it. Officials in general, they're trying to promote new officials. They're trying to get growth in the officials, and you know, they're how they can blend into the Premier League. It's not easy. It's not easy for the governing bodies to do that. Not easy for the referees either. I've said for many years that the 3 highest demands on a match day are the 2 managers and the referee. Within that, I think there's just some things that we think commonsensically could be better, and I think quicker. And I think that's probably where we just get a little bit lost in it as managers and coaches and players, and I think the fans as well. I spoke recently, and I'm still a fan of it, I've got to be honest, because the margins are tight and they're very, very important. It's top-level sport and it's top-level outcomes, and financially can be massive difference, you know, in football, from big, important decisions. I just spoke recently about, you know, even with there's always a rule for a rule, and there seems to be a rule for every VR situation. When you could take all that away and just put more strength in the VR people and go, look, you know, we've had 2 this season, you know what they are, massive decisions that were clearly obvious to everyone in the stadium that didn't get corrected because of a certain reason why they're not allowed to correct them. For me, there should be an override. If it's a bad decision, it's a bad decision, end of. Don't need a rule to decide on a bad decision. They should go, right, that's it, that's a bad decision, and change it. It's not as easy as I'm suggesting, I'm sure of that, because everyone will have a different view. But I think there's a more commonsensical way that it can work, and I think they are trying to find that. On the other hand, the demand of it is quite obvious. You know, stories of own referees speak to the crowd and all this sort of stuff. You know, my personal nirvana is referees go under the radar, allowed to do their job, and they do it so well we hardly notice them, not bring them to the fore. But that's only a personal opinion. I've got a lot of respect for referees. I think it's a hard job.
Yeah, just on that, do you think the discourse at the moment, are we fair to referees because there's so much spotlight on them, and you know it's such a difficult job?
But that's the thing. I don't, you know, I can't understand the spotlight in the sense of you could change that, because, you know, this idea of, I spoke after the Liverpool game, people running over to the screen, and we all know what's going to, well, we all more or less know what the outcome's going to be. So it just adds more spotlight on it. Take that away, make it quicker, make it more streamlined. Personally, I don't need to hear from the referee and the VAR. I don't think the stadium needs to hear it. It's a decision, it's made, we get on with it. You know, I think it's a hard job. I was hoping when a VAR first came in, it was streamlined, and every season it was, and to a point when we all got used to it and it was pretty quick. It seems to recently have gone the other way. And the demand gets higher, and, you know, even if, in my opinion, this is purely my opinion, if a referee had the ability to speak to everyone in the stadium, everyone presupposes because they explained it, they'd all agree. Of course they wouldn't agree. Football fans, as if they're all going to agree. They're still not going to agree. So therefore, I can't see that. I think allow them to go out the spotlight, do their jobs. I think they have a really tough task as referees. We ask a lot of them. So my personal belief is just help them. Don't keep adding more level to it and layers to it. Just take that all away, make it all quieten down, and let them get on with their jobs.
And finally, from me, back to the football. Crystal Palace away on Saturday. Does the team find it easier, perhaps, playing away from home than home at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I think I've spoken recently about this. The results changed that perception. I think the performance has been really strong at home. The results changed the whole feel of that. I think we've actually been strong often home and away. There's been a few that have got away from us. We know that. Hopefully we've corrected some of them things. But no, Palace is good club, fantastic manager, Ray Lewin as well. People I hold in absolute high regard. So I look forward to seeing them. But obviously all the respect goes out the window when the whistle blows.
Sean, just picking up on that, can I ask you about your thoughts on Roy Hodgson? Because he seems to get better with age, doesn't he? He was retired a couple of times.
I tell him every time I see him, I'll be telling him, like this weekend, what are you doing? So I say, what are you doing this for? Come on, mate. You know what I mean? In a lovely way, you understand. Terrific fella, always been terrific with me. When I was younger, coming through, whenever I met him, come across him. I know him a bit through some work and connection I've done with leaders in sport as well. He's always at them events, speaks very wisely. And Ray Lewin, who was my manager at Watford, and I've always got on fantastic with Ray. He was a great gaffer as well. So, I like a lot of what they are and what they do. Respect them, and that's without a shadow of a doubt. But they know and I know the whistle blows, as I said, and that all goes out the window for however long the referee plays. And then afterwards, hope to go and see him. And have a chat.
Has Roy ever given away any of those secrets?
No, I don't think he works in that way. I really don't. I think he's quite open. I think he believes in what he's done. He's formed it over many, many years and many experiences. I think he sticks to how he works with players and how he believes in the game. And it's paid him back. It's served him very, very well, and he's still going. I certainly won't be. I'll tell him that every time I see him. I'm not doing it. I'm not your age, mate. But it's a marvel to the fact he's still got the bug and the heart and desire to keep doing it. And Ray as well.
And what are your thoughts on Crystal Palace, especially recently? Because obviously, before last weekend, I think it was 1 win in 6. They then win last weekend, and the narrative changes to they've taken 7 points from 15.
Well, that's life in the Premier League. That's life at clubs who are not the superpowers. You have the ups and downs, the ins and outs. Good club. Roy's done a good job. They're like all clubs, I think, of that kind of ilk, like trying to find that blend. A side that can play, a side that can fight, a side that can get points on the table, and it's a challenge. It's simple as that. So they've had a bit of an awkward spell. I think Roy spoke. What seemingly, I've seen the game on a screen, not live, but he spoke pretty honestly after the Burnley game, and he felt they didn't play that well, but they got the result. That's sometimes what you have to do.
And concentrating on Everton specifically for this one, any changes in the team news for this one?
No, a couple of knocks with Amadou, and Jared's got a bit of a knock, but we're not expecting too much from Duke's had a bit of sickness, but they've all been on the grass today, so we're hopeful on them.
Hopeful on Onana coming back?
Yeah, I think he should be. I say they've been on the grass late, as we know. Still see how that reacts tomorrow. But he's managed that well. He's done well to get through the games he did. Hopefully we've managed that well with him as well, and it's calmed down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. We'll go to Julia at Radio Music.
Excuse me.
Hey, Sean.
Hi.
In the under-21 game this week, Yusuf Chimiti, Lewis Dobbin, João Virginia, Seamus Coleman all featured in that. I guess the big one there is Seamus Coleman. He lasted over an hour. Is he in contention for this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's important these games because we want to, stimulate the players to get back to full fitness, full sharpness. The games programme can be awkward, ranging games. So it was a game that we felt they could get something from, particularly Seamus, of course. He's still come back to true fitness, but he's doing great. He's put a lot of effort into getting back to real fitness levels. He's desperate to get back involved, you can imagine, and be around it. But he's been terrific since he's been back around the group, and that helps. Yusuf getting a goal and working very hard. Dobbo needed a game, playing well, and some good habits. And I'm pleased for the young players to come through that. Another good sign of a group working hard to get a result.
And I saw your interview this week where you mentioned about Dele Alli, having a conversation with you about how he understood what you wanted to do about direct play. I just wondered if he has been helping maybe in training while he can't play, on a match day. And also, the fans will want me to ask, are we expecting him sooner rather than later?
No, he's still got a bit of way to go. But no, I wanted to try and keep him involved. I think he's in a good place as a person. I like the fact he absorbs it. He's had some amazing experiences, don't forget. People sometimes do forget that, for still a relatively young player. And I was just chatting to him about it. I just said, because I want to try and keep him involved in what we're trying to do with the group. It's hard when you're out for that long. It really is. And he's been through a lot over that period as well. And it was just a conversation I had with him, and he just brought something up that I thought was really important and shared it with the players. I said, look, having a honest conversation. And he described it very well about, this idea of direct play. People presuppose that means kicking the ball down, but it doesn't. And he was on it, straight away. He said, no, I get exactly what you mean. Can you play forwards as a first thought? And he said maybe the players need a bit more correcting with that. So I told the players of the conversation, I will try and be open with the players, and I want their feedback. I want them to let us know if they're not understanding something. More than happy for him to question things and ask whys and wherefores. And he did that in a very good manner, and I just thought it was important to share it and share the belief I have in all the players when they do feedbacks. We do listen.
Manager in the making, maybe then.
Well, who knows, but he certainly had a lot of experiences. Might stand him in good stead later on in life if he decides to go down that route.
Vitaly Mykolenko's form, is winning a lot of praise right now. I just wondered what you made of his progress since you've arrived here, and also how he's linking up with Dwight McNeil now he's getting his fitness back.
Yeah, I think that, Miko finished the last season injured, which is not ideal. Got injured early this season. It was an awkward spell of niggly injuries. He came through the international scene and come back here fitter, and he's done very well. As soon as I got here, I liked what I was seeing. I think it's still lots of development in him. He defends very well. He defends a very high level kind of modern controlled aggression. He's good on his feet. He wants to defend, but not silly stuff. Just the way he competes, and I think it's growing all the time. I think he's really improving. I've really enjoyed his performances.
And Abdoulaye Doucouré has decided that in January he's going to stay here. He won't be part of the Africa Cup of Nations. What does that mean to you as a manager, and what's been the reaction within the squad to that?
Well, I've always been respectful of players on the international scene, because I think it's valid. It means a lot to him to do that and play for countries and their like. So I think in his case, he's old enough and wise enough to make decisions. It's not something he needed to speak in depth to me about, and it was a decision that he's made.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. We'll go to Ian at the Press Association.
Just a quick one, Sean. There's been speculation again about Ben Godfrey and his future. Is he still in your plans?
Yeah, he's doing terrifically well for us. He's training very well. He's staying sharp and ready. The hardest thing we've had lately is the games programme, to try and keep the players who are not quite playing, starting in the first team, try and keep them game ready. But he looks after himself, super fit fella, and he's going along well, and he's ready.
Yeah. Is there anything more you're looking for him to get back into the side?
Well, I think it's fair to say currently it's tough. I think the two centre-halves are playing very, very well, and most people are speaking outside of my opinion and decision. I think most people accept that. And sometimes centre-half I was one, it's tough, because you want to play. But I think there's an honesty to most centre-halves in the sense when they look at someone and think they are playing well, they know they've got to sit tight, and I think he does know that. I think he's a very good player, but he's looking at two centre-halves currently on very, very strong form.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any further questions in the open section, George?
Hi Sean, yeah, Amadou Onana has been in great form, and he currently ranks 4th in the league for successful long balls, with only Rodri, Thiago Silva and Moises Caicedo ahead of him. He's currently averaging twice as many as last season.
Rodri, is he allowed to pass it long? How dare he? When I see him, I should tell him off.
What would you put the improvement down to from a technical standpoint? Because obviously he's been really strong defensively. Is it simply just a case of his second season in England, he's more confident, or maybe something you've worked on?
I think he's maturing as a player. I think he's realised the defensive responsibility better. I think he's doing it better. I think he's seeing the game quicker, which I've spoken endlessly about to him and shown him some clips. Him and Jimmy, to be fair. Ghana's slightly different with his maturity. He sees things a bit quicker, and I've spoken to Amadou and Jimmy about the importance of their positional sense, whilst trying to allow them the freedom to play as well, because they can both play. They're very good on the ball, I think, and I think there's more to come. And then putting in the hard yards, because the top midfield players historically have always covered the ground, and I think he's improving with that. The mental aspect of just the literal basics of working really hard as a midfield player, and like I say, you've got Ghana there with his experience rubbing off on him. Duke slightly differently, playing a more advanced role, but there's a good group there, I think, of midfield players who can rub off on each other.
What do you think his ceiling is?
I think like any player, you can go as hard as you want for as long as you want. I mean, I look at Youngie and I look at Seamus, they're still working hard at their game. I think the way that I've always worked is not about age, it's about desire, it's about the will, it's about what you want from yourself. And I think for the younger players here, the world of football's open to them. So I don't put any limits on them. Just keep improving, keep being hungry to improve all of the time. I think that's the message from me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers. Any further questions in the open section before we move on? No? Okay, thank you.